Hello and welcome along. In this week's Weather Explainer, we're diving into a real journey for the UK's weather. We're starting with a proper frosty, icy blast before things get, well, a lot more uncertain and potentially quite stormy by the middle of the week. So we're going to kick things off with what we know for sure. That's the cold that's already on its way tonight. And then we'll get into the really juicy stuff, the forecasting headaches, and all the fascinating uncertainty about what's coming next. Right, let's get into it. Okay, let's dive right in. We're beginning with a dead cert. It is going to be a cold start to the day for a lot of us. You know, after all that mild and wet weather we've had, things are about to take a very different turn.
So as colder air starts to filter in from the northwest behind all that rain, we're going to see clear skies and temperatures tumbling. And that means you've got to watch out for these classic cold weather hazards. A really widespread frost is on the cards, and with it, some pretty tricky icy patches, especially where the ground is still a bit damp.
And this is the key thing, really. It's not just a little dip. The Met Office is saying temperatures are going to fall markedly. So you'll want to be prepared for a very different feel to the air on Wednesday morning. It's going to be a much crisper start to the day, for sure.
Now, this really highlights the specific danger up in Scotland, where there's a yellow weather warning out for ice. You've got this combination of recent snowmelts and showers, and then you throw in freezing overnight temperatures, and bam, you have the perfect ingredients for some really hazardous icy stretches on roads and pavements.
Right. Let's see how this all evolves, because as we push towards Thursday, the whole picture changes, and it changes dramatically. That cold, quiet start to the week, that gets shoved aside by a developing area of low pressure heading in from the Atlantic, and it's set to bring some really unsettled weather with it. So, the crucial point here is the sheer amount of rain we could see in some spots. We're talking up to 70 millimeters, that's nearly 3 inches. And the really important bit is that this rain is going to be falling on ground that's already completely saturated, which just ramps up the risk of flooding quite a bit. This chart tells the main story for Thursday really clearly. Yeah, there'll be some gusty winds knocking about, and maybe a bit of snow over the very highest ground, but the number one concern, the reason the Met Office has issued a warning across parts of England and Wales, is all about that heavy rain. But here's where it gets really fascinating from a forecasting point of view. While we're pretty confident it's going to be wet and windy, the meteorologists are having a few headaches over the exact behavior of this low-pressure system. It's not playing ball just yet. I mean, that's the key question, isn't it? And honestly, the answer is not straightforward at all. And that's because the different computer models, the things that are the absolute bedrock of modern forecasting, are all suggesting slightly different things for the storm's track and just how deep it'll be. And this breaks down that challenge perfectly. The most likely outcome, the bookie's favorite if you like, is that the low tracks right over the middle of the country, which makes heavy rain the biggest headache. But there is a smaller, but still notable, chance that the system could track a bit further west. And in that scenario, the winds would be a whole lot stronger and potentially way more disruptive. This is exactly why you hear about uncertainty in the forecast. It's absolutely not guesswork. It's this really rigorous process of comparing multiple, incredibly complex models. They all produce this sway of possible tracks, and the forecaster's job is to weigh all those probabilities to give us the most likely and reliable guidance. So, after all that Thursday drama, what's in store for the weekend and beyond? Well, the pattern starts to shift all over again, moving away from these fast-moving Atlantic systems towards something a bit more stagnant. This timeline really shows it. After the low clears out on Friday, we move into a weekend that just gets progressively cloudier. The word the forecasters are using is grotty, and I think that paints a good picture. Think widespread low cloud, hill fog, and a really damp chill in the air, especially if you're in the east. Okay, now this is the feature to keep a very close eye on for the longer term. There's this huge block of high pressure and properly cold air just sitting over to our east. This thing acts like a massive barrier, stopping the milder Atlantic weather in its tracks and potentially feeding much colder air right in our direction. And if we look ahead to next week, this chart of probable weather patterns really shows the influence of that block. While the single most likely outcome is a chilly flow from the southeast, you can see there's also a pretty significant possibility of a much colder, more potent easterly flow developing. The Atlantic influence, you'll notice, is looking much less likely.
So that really is the big question, isn't it? This delicate balance between the milder, wetter Atlantic and that stubborn, cold continental block is still really uncertain. It's a proper tug-of-war. We'll be watching very closely to see which one wins out, but for now, stay prepared for the ice and the rain, and as always, keep yourselves right up to date with the very latest forecasts.